Welcome to part 7 of our turkey series, and I think this is going to be the last video. So I think I milked this turkey far enough. So in this video, let's go ahead and just create a couple simple animations. In our last video, we modified some of the skin weights. Hopefully you made some nice touch-ups on your turkey, and we are ready just to create a simple animation to move forward. So a couple things that I've done on mine is if I move, let me show you guys. If I grab the tail, I was able to clean that up, so now it's just by itself. The easiest way to do this, just in case you have not done any more work on skin weights, the easiest way to do this is just double click on the tail, hold down the shift key, select the entire tail, and then what you want to do is you just want to go to select and do an inverse, which is going to select all the other meshes, right? And then if you go into your skin painting, you can just right click and say select influence, and then because all these verts are selected, you just flood it with 0, right? And that's going to disconnect the tail from anything else besides the tail. So inverse is a really big one, and I did not show that in my last video. That's why I'm showing that to you guys now, and that's an important one. The other huge one that I actually use all the time, and honestly I haven't really needed to yet to show you, but the only other really big one when I rig, I do this all the time. For example, let me grab the foot here, and if I move the foot and attempt to move it, right, a lot of times I don't really have any issues now, but usually sometimes you have 1 or 2 vertex that are just completely out of control, and a lot of times you don't really know which joint specifically is causing the issue. So in here in Maya, there's something called hammer, which is super powerful. Let's say for whatever reason, I don't really have the problem now, but let's say this cluster right here is causing me a lot of problems. Every time I move this is just getting out of control, it's deforming, and it's just causing a lot of issues. And let's say I don't know exactly which what's causing it. I don't know which one of these joints is doing that. So in here, what you could do is you can select that point of a problem or the area of a problem, and then you can go into your skin weights, and in here there's this magic tool. Take advantage of this, called weight hammer. When you click on it, what that's going to do is it's going to look at each vertex and average out the weights that are around the verts and completely 100% smooth this out. So really powerful tool that I haven't showed you guys, but I use this all the time, and it's super powerful. So it's kind of an automatic way to solve ugly issues. So let me undo this, put my foot back down. And all right, so that's I just wanted to bring that up. And the only other thing that I did, I jumped into Substance Painter, and I thought it would be really cool to add like a white stripe of the turkey. And the way I did that is I just simply went to my white color, clicked on the mask, and just added a polygon fill to all of the shapes in between the bullets and these two here. And I think it just adds a little more design, right? And it picks up kind of the white in the tail and the eyes. I think just looks really nice personally. All right, so next let's go ahead and create some fun, simple animations, and let's also take a look at how we can create some blend shapes, maybe to make it look like the bandana is swaying in the wind or something. So one of the first things I would strongly advise for anyone who is new to animation is always try to pull up some kind of a reference that you are going to follow, right? So just even for like a rough reference, doesn't need to be exact. Let me pull something up. All right, so the references that I found, whenever I do this kind of stuff, I always just look for something super simple like the GIF files, right? So if you type in GIFs, you should be able, even on your phone, right? You go to messages, type in GIFs, like a Giphy, I think is one of the apps. But a lot of times you can get really awesome references that are loops for this kind of stuff. So this is Mauga from Overwatch 2, I think. This is Jinx, right, from Arcane. Hopefully many of you guys are watching the Arcane show on Netflix right now. It's like #1 animated show, and they spent $250 million for 2 seasons. essentially creating 18 episodes. An incredible show. So I strongly recommend anyone who is not watching Arcane should immediately go watch it because it's amazing. And then this is just a reference from Metal Slug. But you can see the reason I pulled these up, right? So essentially it's super similar. I have a character that I just want him, just like Mauga, have the weapons spinning, and you know, we don't really have this big chest or anything, but he's I could see he's moving his jaw, and he's just essentially, for the lack of better words, just kind of shaking in place. And that's really pretty much all I was thinking. I don't even need to spin the character like Jinx is doing, and Metal Slug is doing as well. But to add these effects on top that you're seeing, like the fire effects, that's definitely not going to be done in Maya, right? You just render out the image sequence, and then you bring it into like something like a video editor, like Adobe After Effects or Adobe Premiere, and you just overlay an effect that you can just download. You know, if you don't want to create your own VFX, you can just overlay it over the weapon and just match the movement, right? And that's going to make the illusion of something is being shot, but essentially it's just 2D effect mixed with 3D, right? So again, for anyone who's super new, that is how this works. And of course, you can on YouTube also look something up like behind the scenes of Arcane. You can learn a lot just from watching that. But anyways, I'll stop talking. Let's go ahead and start animating. So now since we saw this and we get a really kind of a good idea of what needs to happen, let's just close this. All right, and the first thing I'm going to say is I'm going to stay with 24 frames per second. I think that's great. And let's just make a loop of, I don't know, how about we'll do 24 frames. So essentially 1 second. If you press play, you get a really good sense of timing, right? I know nothing is animated, obviously, but by just watching the slider, this is 1 second at 24 frames per second, gives you a really good, solid idea of timing, right? So I think this is all I'm gonna do, just a simple loop, all right? So let's go to keyframe number 1. And what we need to do is just set kind of the first key, right? And before we set the first key, we also need to create a first pose of what our guy is doing, right? And the one thing I didn't cover, actually, I just realized that, are the controllers, right? Now, keep in mind, for anyone who is creating animations for games, even if you animate controllers and you export your model out to the game engine, during the export, all the animations are going to be baked into the joints themselves. So the controllers are not going to be brought or exported out of Maya, right? You literally just bake the movement of the animation into the joints. And for that reason, I mean, controllers are nice for animators if you're doing like a hardcore animation, or you're giving your model to another animator. Obviously, they don't want to animate joints. That's ridiculous, right? They want controllers. In our case, we're just doing a simple test. I don't really think we need to set up all of these controllers just to do a really simple 1 second animation. I think that would be silly. But just to show you, if you did want to set up controllers just for fun, it's super easy. All you have to do is just go to curves. Let's say we want to set up a controller for his waist, right? All I'm going to do is just click on the circle, drag the circle out, all right? And that's going to be my controller. And then what I can do is I can hold down X. Let's snap it to the center. I can hold down V, and you can see now it's turned into this little magnet. So I can take this and literally snap it right in the center of his waist, right? So if you can't see well, let's do this. Let's select the controller, hold on the Shift key, select our skeleton, and let's just do isolate so we can just look at that. And again, I'm going to select this, then press W, hold on the V, and just snap it to the center of this pelvis, right? And boom, that's pretty much it. Now we have a controller, and now all we need to do is just link this controller to the pelvis to make sure it's going to indeed move this around. The other thing that you see a lot of people do is customize their controllers, just the look of them. So you can select, for example, these points, grab something like the scale, and just make like a custom one so it looks a little bit nicer, right? But none of that really means anything. It's just for pretty visuals. And now to link it to this, all I need to do is just simply select this, hold on the Shift key, select the pelvis, and let's go to animation, let's go to constraints, parent constraint, and in here, let's say maintain offset, right? We want that. And let's just leave the translate and rotate on both, and just say add, right? As soon as you say add, you can see a little red link appeared in our outliner saying we have a constraint, which means if I grab this and attempt to move it, it should control the pelvis of the turkey, right? Just like we did when we didn't have it, right? When we just simply grabbed this. It's the same exact thing. There's no difference. The only difference is that now this is actually parented to control the pelvis, right? All right, so controllers are nice because then if you hide your, let me jump out of isolate. If you hide your skeleton, if you hide this by pressing H, you still have these controllers, and it's nice because you could see what's happening a little bit better, right? So that's pretty much the basics of adding controllers, and you can add them all over the place. But again, for me, I don't really need it for 1 second animation. I think that's silly. So there's no reason why I can't just animate the actual joint. Let me go back to my outliner. I'm gonna press H so I can see this once again. And as I'm showing this to you guys and doing these tests, I can see actually that there's an issue on the bottom right there. So if I grab this controller and try to move it around, you can see that my nail, my left nail here, is having an issue. And this is a great opportunity to try to use our hammer, right? So without even selecting any joints whatsoever, I'm just gonna go to vertex mode, select this right here. I'm gonna hold on the Shift key and press period on my keyboard to go up the up the radius and include more vertex points. And now what I can do is I can jump into, let's go into rigging, skin, paint skin weights, go into options, and let's try to use this tool right here that I was telling you about. So now if I click on it, you should see that this will automatically fix it without me even selecting any joints. Now that's pretty cool, right? So that means if I go back to my controller and attempt to move around my pelvis, my nail is going to be magically fixed. So again, love the hammer tool, super important. All right, so that's really cool. Let's just keep going. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the first pose, which is going to be this. I'm going to take this handle and press S on my keyboard. You see a red line appeared, which means I just set a key for this. I'm going to go to frame 24, press S again. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go halfway, which is going to be frame 12. Press S. Let me move him up. So now he's going to be kind of standing. And just even doing this right here should already give us some kind of a motion, right? So at 24 frames per second, if I press play, I should see something like this. Now you might ask yourself, what is the playback frame rate for this? If you click on this little thing here called settings and go into time slider, in here the playback speed is really important. Right now it's 24 frames per second times 1, and this is going to be play every frame, right? So you probably want to leave it on this. Just make sure that you have the same. If you say anything else, this is going to be slow motion. This is going to be double the speed. You want to make sure it's playing 24 frames per second, and times 1 is what you want, right? So let's go ahead and review this. So right now, if this was a firing animation, it's not going to work, right? It's way too slow. In my opinion. So I want this to be much faster. So what I could do is I can select my controller, and holding down the Shift key, I can click and select this keyframe. And now if I click on these middle arrows, I can move it around, right? So let's say I want to, instead of him going down on 12, I'm going to go down to 3. So essentially make it, like 4 times faster, right? So he's going to go from 0 to 3 really fast. And then I want him to go back up, right? So I can just copy this and go to 6 and do a paste. And now if I wanted to get a sense of timing and see how this feels, Let's switch this from 24 frames to 6 and press enter. And now if I press play, I should see something much, much faster and maybe a little more aggressive, right? So this is a great start. All right, I think that's great. Let's go back to 24 because I think we should utilize all of these frames and not make it too repetitive. All right, so now we just have to take this loop right here, the 6 frame loop, and paste it over, over this range, right? So it kind of fills up the 24 frames. So there's a couple different ways of doing it. I can, of course, hold on the Shift key. I can select these. I can copy paste them. That would be one way of doing it. Another way of doing it would be, is this. Check this out. I can delete this keyframe on 24, right? Because I already have 0 and 6. And then I can tell Maya to loop the animation. How do you loop something in Maya? What I could do is I can select this handle and I can go to my graph editor. If I go into my graph editor, I can see that this is the graph for the 6 keyframe animation. And now how do I tell Maya to loop this? Well, all I have to do is just select all of these and then click on this little button right here called oops, not pre-infinity, we want post-infinity. So if I click on post, you can see right here an indication that this is now looped, right? So if I press play, it's going to loop the entire time. And I actually like how the toes are moving kind of somewhat randomly. I think this is great. So this is going to be sort of the start of our firing animation, right? We got him going. Very cool. I think this is a lot of fun. Let's press stop. And let's close our graph editor for now. And let's see what else can we do. As he comes down, right? Or as he comes up, I should say. I think the weapons, these weapons right here, should maybe move down a little bit, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this shoulder and this shoulder. I'm going to press S to set a key on frame 0. And now we have this short animation of 6 frames. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to press S here as well. Go to frame 3, grab my rotation, and I am in the object mode. So I'm just going to take this and move it down. So essentially when his body goes up, the weapons are going to come down. And now we have something like this, right? Maybe we can just decide if this is too much or too little. I kind of want something super exaggerated. So now all I need to do is just do the same thing. I want to loop all of this all the way to 24. So same way, I'm going to go to graph editor and select all of this and just do a post infinity cycle, right? Now if I press play, I should see something like this. And try to visualize, fire coming out from here, and he's firing, and this is the, that's my animation. All right. I think this is great. I kind of like it. It looks a lot like he's firing. Let's do something with his tail, right? So same thing. I'm just going to do select this joint here. Again, don't have a controller. Sorry about that. But that's fine. That's fine. Let's go to frame 0, press S to set a key. Go to frame 6 and go to frame 3, right? Like we've been doing. And now let's think about this. As the turkey comes down, maybe the tail should actually move in, right? I think so. And then when he comes out, maybe the tail could just do something like this. And now we have something like this, right? And then I can copy 0 and paste it over 6, right? I kind of like that. Let's grab all of these and we'll do a post on these as well. And let's check it out. So now we have this effect where the tail is kind of responding to the fact that he's excited and he's firing. And he's really into it, right? His knees are shaking. I think it's great. We could even maybe, shake these toes there as well a little bit. That's fine. All right, if I think it's a little too much, I can always, of course, adjust it. Let's go to 0 and let's maybe copy it to 6 and see if maybe that's a little bit better, right? Now we have something like this. And yeah, I think that's a little bit better, right? This is totally fun and very easy to do. Let's see, what else can we do? So another thing we could do is maybe we can move some of these fingers, right? Just because we have the joints in here, the wiring for it, so why not? I'm going to select both of these, hold down the Shift key, and let's go to 0, press S, go to 6, press S, go to 3, and right here when the character comes up, why not just move these up a little bit, or yeah, I think just up, right? So now we have an additional animation of kind of the fingers moving as he moves the weapons, and we can even make it a little more dramatic. So I think that's a nice addition as well. And let's just keep looping it. So I'm going to loop this as well, and let's press play. Okay, so it looks like the deck is maybe vibrating, right? It would be also really cool if in post we added like bullets flying and falling as he's shooting. Like try to visualize that scene in Matrix from the helicopter where they're trying to save Morpheus and all these bullets are just falling down, right? That would be really cool, I think. I think that's, I'm liking this. I don't really want to do too much. Let's just move on, keep moving up, right? The next thing is going to be his head. So for the head, let me think about this. I'm going to select his neck. Let's go to frame 6, press S on 3. When the body comes up, I would like the head. I'm going to grab my move tool. I'm going to move this down, right? And I think that's going to create a really cool effect. I'm going to bring this down and see how that's looking. So I actually need to be even lower than this. So essentially something like this I think is pretty funny. And I don't want to deform or break my neck too much. So let me actually think about this. I don't want to break this geometry right there. So I'm going to do something like this. And then right here on 0, I'm actually going to extend it up. Exaggerated just a little more, okay? And now if I copy this and switch it with my 6, I should have something really funny, right? The neck is really part of this animation, okay? And let's go ahead and do the same thing. Let's select our animation. Now if you lose this right here, you can just press F and that's gonna get you back. Select this, let's do a post. And let's just see how that's looking. We can also decide if we want to rotate the neck forward a little bit, maybe. As he comes down here, maybe his head actually goes back a little bit, or forward. How about forward? We'll just do something like this. And maybe that's even better. Let's just see how that's gonna work. I like that, but I think it's a little too much. Just do something a little less, right? I think that's pretty cool. All right, let's keep moving up. So the next thing up his body is going to be the beak. And we rigged all this, so might as well use it, right? So I'm gonna go to frame 0, press S, go to 6, and let's press S on 3. And let's just maybe decide if we wanna close this open. I'm gonna open this a little more on 3, all right? And now what's going to happen is as he comes down, his bottom beak kind of opens a little. And you know what? We can also decide if we want to twist it. Just so it really feels like he is kind of shaking violently, right? I think that's cool. I like that. And now what I could do is let me go ahead and extend that and press play. So it's very subtle, but you can see that the cigar is actually moving side to side as well, right? And we can even do something with the top beak too. Let me select this and do the same thing. I'm going to do S on 6 and 3, and on here maybe I can rotate this a little and just move it to the side, right? Just making it look like he is really violently shaking, okay? And let me go ahead and press F. Select all of these, do a post, and let's check this out. All right, I like it. I think it's great. I'm gonna keep going. The next one up the list is gonna be this guy here. And what I'm gonna do is do the same thing. I'm gonna go to, now we do have 24, right? You might be asking yourself, if Ellen is just using first 6, why don't you just make the timeline to be a 6-frame loop? And why you keep, you know, extending the animations using the post infinity? I'll tell you guys why. The reason I left it at 24, I wanted it to be a little bit longer, is because when we do the blend shapes for the wind blowing the bandana, I wanted that to be its own animation, maybe a little bit slower, so not as fast. So that's the reason I extended this to 24. And while everything is sort of a 6-frame loop, I wanted this to be a little bit different, kind of out of sync. And I think that should give us a really cool effect. So that's the reason I'm doing this, okay? Hopefully we'll have a nice payoff at the end, but let's just see how this works. So for this part here, I'm gonna go to 6, press S, and go to 3, and as the head comes down, right, I want this to shoot up or move up. So maybe something like this. And then I'm going to take this thing here, and let me set keys for this as well. And then on 3, I want to bend this like this, right? And I think that is going to give us a really funny effect, like it's really bouncing around, right? And if we wanted to, also right here, we can take this here, switch this to, let's switch it to object, and we can pull this down a little, right? Why not? And that's going to give us this funny effect of it's being shaken around and getting pulled down as well, right? So maybe right here, it just gets just a little bit shorter, and just a little, add a little something, right? I am going to, let's go ahead and select both of them. So I'm going to select this, right click, and do select hierarchy. That's going to select the entire link. I'm going to come down here in my graph editor and press F. Select all of the keyframes and do a post on this as well, and just press play, and let's just check it out. So this is a good example, right? I like it, but I'm actually feeling like it's doing it a little bit too fast, right? And because I have more keyframes than just 6, I can use that to my advantage, right? So let's try that. I'm going to select this, right click, do select hierarchy, just so I select every joint that has the animations. And then I can extend this now, right? I'm going to press shift and click on 6, and let me change it to let's just do to 12, and then hold down the shift, click on this, and put this on 6. So essentially doubling the distance, right? And now this is going to be a little bit out of sync, right? But it's still going to loop with our, you know, our post effect, right? So it's going to still loop twice. And let's just see how that's looking. And I like this better, right? Because it's kind of out of sync, and it's, you know, it's a personal preference as an animator. You can decide if you like it. Maybe it's a little too violent for this piece here. Let me actually tone this down a little more and see if I like that better. Yeah, I like it. I actually do like it that it's out of sync with the body and the weapons. Again, I'm just playing, right? You can play around and see what makes sense on your end. Very cool, right? So all of that is nice. The next thing up the list, besides the bandana, is going to be this thing up here. So let's do that as well. I'm going to go to 0, press S, go to 6, go to 3, and let's think about this. So as he comes up, I think this up here should probably, you know, be pulled up a little as well, right? And then as this comes down, this should probably get shorter, right? Because of the gravity of the head getting pulled in. And also, why not rotate it, right? Maybe we can slant it down a little as well, just for a little exaggerated effect. So now we have something like this. And, you know, this right here, I could even do something like that, where it's even more dramatic. And let me copy 0 to 6, make sure it's a perfect loop, right, like we've been doing. And let's go ahead and select all of these, do a post, and let's check it out. So it's very subtle, right? It's not something, unless you're looking at it because you just animate it, you might be paying attention to it, but normally you're not going to be looking at it. And of course I can also turn off my X-ray so you can see the actual mesh, right? Because when we render this out, obviously we're not going to see the joints. So I think it's super funny, and I like this a lot. I think it's great. Close our graph editor for a minute. Let's just quickly add some kind of a blend shape to our bandana. All right, so let's do this. Let's go to animation. I guess it could be, it doesn't need to be animation, but essentially what you want to do is go to Windows, and you want to find something called, under animation editors, you want to find something called shape editor. So shape editor is going to be something that we can use for morph targets or blend shapes. So I'm going to click on that, and that's going to give me this shape editor window. I'm going to make sure that, again, this is selected, and I'm going to say create blend shape, right? So it's going to add, I don't have this separate, and it's fine, right? For this it's fine, but I don't have this as a separate mesh, so it added the whole mesh as a layer for my shape editor, and you can see that here. So now what I need to do is I need to create a target to change the position of these verts to create the morph targets or the blend shape animation. So again, with this selected, I'm going to go to add target, and that's going to give me that. And we can even rename this, you know, we can say, I can call this, you know, bandana, that's fine. And as soon as we press that, you can see that the edit mode was activated, which means, what does that mean? It means that Maya is telling you, right? It's telling you that go ahead and make the changes for your mesh to be recorded as a change or as an animation. So let me show you. So right now we created the target and it's an edit mode. So that means, let's go to sculpting and let's just grab something like the this tool right here. I'm gonna grab that. All right. Holding down the B key, you can change the size of this if you want. And essentially, think of this right here as the first keyframe of our bandana. And then the second keyframe, or the last keyframe, is going to be the animation. So now if I start moving this around like this, like it's, you know, like it's really blowing in the wind, right? I can take this and maybe pull this up, and it's going to create this kind of a nice dynamic feel. Now check this out. If I drag this, it's going to show me my animation between first keyframe and last keyframe. And this right here is going to be your loop of the wind blowing the bandana, right? So I definitely want to move this here, and I'm trying to see if what I like. Even something like this is great. Like, you can spend more time playing with this. I just want to show you the actual technical execution of setting the keyframes. So once you're done, just jump out of the edit mode. That means you're done changing the position of your mesh that you are that you want to animate. And now what I could do is I can set keyframes for this. So I can do the same thing. I can go to frame 0. I can set a key right here. So it's not like pressing S like we did with the joints and the controllers. You have to do it right here. So you set a key, okay? Then you go to, let's go to like frame 12, right? And let's go ahead and dial this down and set another key. It's going to be set automatically because my button right here is set to auto keyframe toggle. All right, so you set another key. So now you have 2. You can't see them. I'll show you that in a second. But then what you want to do is go to frame 24. And let's go ahead and bring this back up. And that key is set too, right? So now if I press play, this newly blend shape animation is going to be part of the bandana. And we can check this out, right? If I press play, you can see what that looks like. Right now it's honestly pretty terrible because that doesn't look good at all. But essentially that is the technical execution of how to set it up. And now it's just a matter of, you know, making something that looks nice, right? This doesn't look nice. And one of the things, is maybe my vision of doing it in slow motion is actually not working well. It doesn't seem to, maybe I want to speed this up. So how would I speed this up if I can't see the keyframes, right? We set the keys, but we can't see them. So what you want to do, you want to go to, what you want to do is you want to go to your channel box, and in here on the bottom you can see it says right here blend shapes, right? If I click on that, you will see on the timeline the three keys that we set on 0, 12, and 24, right? So they show up as soon as you select this thing here. So now that means I can actually move them around, and maybe, you know, let me try to see if I like this faster and see if I like that. So now, you know, I can create something that's much faster. You can see maybe that looks a little bit better. And let's just continue playing with this. I'm gonna go to like 10, and I'll just keep setting keys. Maybe I'll go halfway this time. I won't go all the way. Just to create a variation, go to 24 and move this back up. And I'm gonna do maybe a smaller one here. Maybe we'll do something like that. And right here, you know, it needs to go back to that. And then on 0, I'm actually going to change this. So essentially, I'm just adjusting it and playing around. And now instead of making it so dramatic, I can maybe go halfway. And now I have just a little more variation, right? Now it's just a matter of dialing, but you get the idea. Now I can see the keyframes. I have full control. I can press play, and I have something like this. Again, right now it looks pretty terrible, but you get the idea. You can even change, you can even add more targets. Right now it's kind of moving back and forth, right? Let's say I want to set another target of this thing moving up and down, right? Let's get crazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, add another target, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tool again, my sculpting tool, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this up, both of them. Let's move them up something like this. Holding down the shift key, I can smooth this out and really change the shape of this and move it up, right? So now I have two positions, up and down. And now I could use a second target layer to create even more variation in my animation, right? So let me jump out of edit, and just like we did before, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to frame 0, I'm gonna set a key. And on frame 12, I'm gonna move this all the way up, right? And then on frame 24, I'm gonna move it back all the way down. And now if I press play, I should have something really interesting, because now we have the animation of it being pulled and at the same time going up. And as I'm looking at this, I'm realizing on 12, this is just a little bit too high. So maybe just go halfway. All right, and now this is much better. So you get the idea, right? You can add the complexity as much as you wish and create something really cool. As a final step, let's go ahead and animate the weapons. We did rig them up to spin. So to do that, all you have to do is just select the rotation, and let's go to 0, press S. All right, and then I can go to frame 24, right, the last one. And essentially what I want to do is just do a full rotation. So obviously we don't have to rotate this. We can just go to our rotate value here and just type in 360, right? That's going to be the full rotation circle. And now if you spin this, you should see you should see this rotate, right? Now, one thing I will say, if you want to go to graph editor and take a look at your graph for the spinning weapon, if I select this, I can also change this to linear tangent, right? And that's going to make sure that it doesn't have easing in and easing out when it spins, right? So now if you rotate this, you should see something that is going to rotate the entire time. And I want to make sure that on 24, if I go to 0, right, it's going to reset. So now if I press play, I should see, the weapon rotating. So that's easy enough, right? Let's do the same thing with this one. I'm going to select that, go to frame 0, press S, go to 24. And then same thing, if I start to rotate it, you could see that now it's going to add a minus to it, right? So I want to do minus 360. That's fine. Let's go ahead and press enter. Now let's go ahead and select that and also make it linear. And if I press play, we should see something along these lines where the weapons are spinning in the same direction, right? And that is going to make it even cooler, right? The only last thing that I'm going to do personally, which is not necessary, but before I render this out, I think it would be really cool if the camera was shaking too. Now we can add a camera, custom camera, and animate it manually. Or on my channel, if you type in shaking camera, I actually do have a way to do it with a little script. I think it's a Python script, but it will automatically essentially shake your camera, give your camera a noise, if that's something you want to do. For this here, I think I'm just going to do it manually. Check this out. I can just select my camera, my perspective camera in the outliner, my default camera, and literally just press S to set a key for that, right? And the other thing I can do is you can go to your attribute editor and you can change the angle of view, right? Right now I have it set to 83 to give me like this fish eye effect, which is really cool, right? You can play with the angle of view, focal length, all of that. And you can even animate that too. But anyways, if you want to change that, the view of the camera, you can do that. But let's say I like this angle right here. And let's say I want my camera shaking a little bit as he's firing, right? So what I could do is I can just create manual noise. So I'm going to go to like frame 3, maybe move this up a little, and just rotate this a little bit. You can see my keyframe automatically added. Just do a little more and just literally just randomly create my own noise for this, and go to 21. And then to make sure it's looped, I'm going to copy 0 and paste it 24. And now if I press play, you can see my camera is going to be shaking in addition to everything else happening, right? And that's going to be just, I think, a final touch for this that will make it really nice and kind of custom. But again, all of this is just final touch-ups and preferences, and it's up to you, right? So now set up your lights, render this out, and you should have something pretty awesome. All right, so thank you so much for joining me on these fun series, and I will see you guys in our next video.